Hello, hello, hello. I'm HoJo.
And I'm Hunnsy.
And welcome to this, the 39th episode of HoJo and Hunnsy's Hard Rock House, the safe space for old rock gummies just like us, where I'm in my Aerosmith-approved home sweet home after a Fogat-approved slow ride back to France from Portugal.
You said Home Sweet Home. Was that not Motley Crue?
No. Do you not know Home Sweet Home by Aerosmith?
Yeah, I do, but I think Motley Crue is probably the more well-known song.
Maybe so, but I don't really like Motley Crue, so I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say Aerosmith.
All right.
Have Motley Crue ever made a record as good as Aerosmith's Rocks?
No. I don't even know why I paused there.
Why was there a pregnant pause while you considered this?
We talk a lot about Motley Crue, don't we?
We do, because they're funny. I read something on social media, so must be true, that Vince Neil had retired. Have you heard anything about this?
Retired from what?
I suppose that would predicate that he'd been considered a singer. You haven't heard that, have you?
I haven't. So that might scupper their 9th final tour, mightn't it?
Yeah, possibly. No, but he'll be back, won't he? This will just be about ticket sales, won't it? If it is true that Vince has announced his retirement, he'll be coming out of retirement imminently.
Well, like Kiss are.
Well, like everybody.
Well, Kiss are doing that thing in Vegas, aren't they?
Yeah. What are they actually doing, though?
So they're not going to wear their makeup, and apparently they're performing unmasked or something.
What, the Unmasked album, or they are performing without a mask?
I think both.
I'd go and see that.
Yeah, you like Unmasked, don't you? As an artist?
I love it. Yeah. Great record.
As you know, most people just don't go away for too long, do they?
No, we also know we haven't done any research, so we're kind of fumbling around here going, well, we think it's this, but we're not really sure.
No, it is.
They're playing the Unmasked album. Unmasked.
Yeah, I think so.
There you go. There's some doubt, isn't there?
Anyway, they're back. But speaking of back, I went to see The Darkness last week.
Why is that speaking of back?
Because it was last week.
What, back in the day?
It's a terrible segue.
It's an awful segue.
I wanted to talk about it because it was brilliant.
Was it?
They were absolutely magnificent.
Okay. What did you like about it?
I loved all the stuff I love about The Darkness. Stage presence, their songs, Justin's an amazing frontman. It was great.
It's been hoo-ha on their social media channels, though, haven't they?
About what?
Whether the album's any good, first and foremost.
Which it is.
Okay, well. And secondly, about how many different versions of the album are out that people have to buy if they want to have every single track. Because there's about 8 different versions where there's one bonus track that's different on each one.
You can buy a mixing desk recording of the shows as well.
Yeah, I haven't heard there's any issues about that, but people were a bit unhappy about the fact that if you wanted to be a collector and you wanted all the songs, you had to buy 8 different versions of the album or whatever it is. There was also hoo-ha about signed copies of the album. Do you heard about that?
I think they did 4 different covers.
Don't know.
And each member of the band signed their own cover. So if you wanted all 4 members of the band, you had to buy 4.
Yeah, and also there was some where the whole band had signed them, and I saw them, that someone had put a picture up, and it said Frankie Pulane. He didn't bother signing it, he just wrote FP.
Right.
And apparently some of them were written on the black part of whatever the cover was, so that you couldn't see the signature. So there was a lot of unhappy people out there.
Well, I wasn't happy when I went to see him. Me and Mrs. Huns went to see him.
You weren't unhappy? You mean you were happy when you saw them?
Yes, I was. And Mrs. Huns really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, I suppose you argue you don't have to buy this shit, do you?
No.
If you don't want it. It's difficult, isn't it? Because it's so hard now to raise money as a rock band that I guess you have to try every trick in the book. I'd have a bit more sympathy, though, if it was a really small band who were doing that and they really needed the money. But if you're selling out Wembley...
Yeah, true. But they did some cool stuff on that tour. I was speaking to someone who was running the VIP thing.
Yeah, they also cancelled a load of in-stores, didn't they?
Yeah, but they were doing this really cool VIP thing where you didn't have to pay the same price as Kiss, i.e. stand next to them and have your photograph taken for $2,000 or whatever it is.
Right.
Their VIP thing was quite cool. It was 250 quid, which is not an insignificant amount of money, but I guess if you love the band, right, what you got for it I thought was quite cool. So you paid 250 quid, and as part of the sign-up thing, they asked you if you could play an instrument. And then at the meet and greet in the afternoon before the show, they basically pulled a name out of the hat or a couple of names out of the hat. And if your name was pulled out, you got to go up on stage with them in the empty auditorium and do the song. And it could be a Darkness song or it could be a cover version. And they do it with you.
Well, so long as they knew it.
I think you put the song choice down first. And
okay. That's quite good.
Then there was a Q&A. And if you paid £500, which is an extra £250, you got to do that. But also you got to watch the band from the side of the stage with a bucket of beer, and you got to meet them afterwards and do selfies and all that sort of stuff.
This is what you got to do these days, presumably. If you want to make rock star money, you have to slice and dice it in a million different ways, don't you?
I think so, because you're not going to make it from record sales, are you?
No, because there aren't any. People were also unhappy about that, because I saw something where they were going, they could have looked a little bit fucking happier in the meet and greet when they took their photographs. Did you see that as well?
No, I didn't.
Oh, they all looked like they wanted to be anywhere else but having their photograph taken with fans.
If you're going to do it, you've got to do it, haven't you?
Well, that's kind of what I think. If you're going to do it, you better do it properly, or don't do it at all.
Yeah, you're pretty good with your fans, aren't you?
If only I could charge £500.
It was a good night, Greg.
Did you pay for a ticket?
No.
I
would have done. Stop
okay.
it.
All right.
Really pleased to go, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great show. Justin was really funny, as he usually is. He was doing handstands and then clapping with his legs.
That's quite impressive. Not as impressive as playing air guitar on your leg.
I did think of the Portuguese guy when he was doing that. I was thinking, yeah, that's impressive, Justin, but you should see this guy in Portugal.
You need to up your game again.
Yeah.
So while I was driving through Spain, you were watching The Darkness.
So, what else? Yes. What else are we going to talk about? 40 years ago this week, it was announced that David Lee Roth had left Van Halen.
40 years, that's amazing. Well, it would be, wasn't it? Because it was after the 1984 album, and even I can work that out.
How did you feel about that? Do you remember when it happened? Where were you? Where were you?
As big as when Kennedy was assassinated. When David Lee Roth left Van Halen. I don't know. Was I bothered?
You must have been at Kerrang.
Yes, I was.
And was it not like furore in the press room? And it was not like, oh my God, he's gone.
Oh my God, David Lee Roth has left the group. I can't really remember, to be honest. I don't remember it being seismic. I don't remember people crying and having to set up a helpline for people who were in danger of doing something awful, some sort of a self-harm because their favourite band is split. It wasn't like a Take That thing or a One Direction.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when the announcement came out, didn't they sort of at the same time say that Hagar was in?
I don't know. I really can't remember. All I knew was that I didn't think it was going to be any good with Sammy Hagar.
Right. Okay.
I think I was proved right.
Oh, no.
Light blue touch paper.
I think 5150, there's some great songs on 5150. There's some great songs throughout the Hagar period. It's not Van Halen with David Lee Roth, is it?
Not even close.
No, but I think there were still some good tunes.
Did you like it when he started wearing those really leery trousers and had his hair cut all short, but like a bit of floppy coming over the front?
Yeah, I remember that live DVD. It was probably a VHS at the time, live without a net, wasn't it, or something?
I've no idea, because obviously I'd long since parted company with Van Halen at that point.
He had the MC Hammer trousers.
What possessed him?
Well, hang on, I'm just thinking. Remember when we had Neil Carter on, we talked about his period of emceeing Hammer trousers?
Yeah.
It was Hagar and Carter. He actually put them next to each other. Are they the same person?
Hagar and Carter sounds like some kind of cop show from the 70s. Going around in leery trousers, solving crime.
What's your opinion on David
Hold on,
Lee?
you've managed to sneakily avoid the question. Have you ever worn MC Hammer trousers?
No. Have you?
I have.
Oh, God.
Yeah, there was a time. I don't know what happened. There was a period.
Was this your funk metal period?
I'd never liked funk metal, but I don't know why the trouser came in. There was a fellow Kerrang writer called Neil Jeffries who was legendary for wearing leery trousers. Neil Jeffries used to turn up in these absolutely preposterous pants. We used to play football together, and he'd turn up on a Sunday morning wearing these things that were indescribable.
He didn't wear them on a night out, did he?
Yeah, they were his favourite trousers. And I must have got infected, because I'm pretty sure I bought a pair that was similar. Very loud with lots of patterns on.
Oh, dear. Any photographic evidence of these?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, that's a shame.
Shame for you.
Shame for our single-digit listeners.
Yeah, not a shame for me.
No. I mean, they were kind of like those hippie trousers that people wear in Thailand, aren't they?
Yeah, that's the kind of thing it is.
Yeah.
And when I see it now, usually it's accompanied by some dreadlocks with things living in it on the top of the head. And that obviously means that I can go nowhere near those trousers. I haven't worn trousers like that in more than 30 years, it must be said.
And
probably more.
And spandex as well, obviously.
I think I'd rather be seen in spandex than them.
All right, okay. Going back to David Lee Roth. For you, is it David Lee Roth or Dave Lee Roth?
David.
Correct.
David. It's never Dave. It's David Lee Roth and Diamond Dave.
Exactly.
That's all it can be.
In fact, didn't you buy one of our friends a T-shirt that said David Lee Roth is Van Halen?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And he is Van Halen. I still stick with this.
Can you name any other Davids in rock?
David Coverdale.
You don't call him Dave Coverdale, do you?
No, but you don't call him David Meniketti, do you?
No, it's Dave Meniketti. Exactly.
Yeah, so I don't know where these rules come from, but everybody seems to understand what they are.
Yeah. And it's definitely David Lee Roth.
Yeah, it is. So there you go, 15 minutes in. Well, it might not be by the time I've edited it. Chunnering away. Isn't it time we got into the nitty-gritty of today's episode?
You mean a bit of structure?
Well, a bit of structure, a bit of what you've been listening to.
All right, okay.
I presume you have been listening to some music this week.
I have. I've been listening to some music. I've been listening to a record from way back when.
That tends to be the way we do things.
Well, not you. You did bloody Sleep Token, which, by the way,
yeah, go on,
has had a mildly positive response.
Okay, tell me more.
I think I mentioned this on the pod that it might bring some people out to go, I like Sleep Token too. It has. And a lot of people have shared your view that they're good, but also they're important because rock music does need to sort of...
Oh, fucking hell. Your dog doesn't like Sleep Token.
A lot of people have gone, yeah, I think it's really important that this genre of music moves on and they're great, they're different, they're embracing different styles of music. One guy said, I saw them back in 2016 at a really small venue and I thought they were brilliant then. They're really interesting. Nobody's gone, what on earth is HoJo talking about? He's lost his mind. Nobody.
Wow, that's amazing. I thought there'd be a lot of that.
No, none. It was all pretty positive, I was going to say.
Wow. Should we just change the whole format of our show and not talk about any old music and only talk about weird and interesting new rock bands?
I don't think that's a good idea.
I think that might not work.
Well, there's two reasons, isn't there? A, we don't know enough about it, and B,
we don't know anything about it.
True.
And
yeah,
B?
We're just too old.
Yeah.
It's not authentic, is it?
No.
Whereas what I'm going to talk about is authentic.
Okay, so what is it?
I've been listening to a debut album by a British band, 1980.
Yeah. Oh, that's got me worried already.
Produced by Chris Sangarides.
Yeah, whose name you've now learnt to pronounce.
Exactly. So we've talked about him before. Why did we talk about him?
Because he played guitar in More at some point.
Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah, too long for me. That fucking solo went on forever.
Anyway, he produced this album. It was on, do you remember, Jet Records?
Of course I do, yeah. Don Arden.
Were was his first two albums on Jet? Or was it just the first one?
Certainly he was on Jet to start with. I don't know whether it was two or three or what, but yes. But obviously because he was part of the Don Arden Mafia, wasn't he?
Exactly.
Sharon was Don's daughter. It was always Don, never Donald, was he? He was never Donald Arden.
It was Don. Don Costa was never Donald Costa. He wouldn't have come across as so evil, would he?
Oh dear, I saw some terrible photos of Don Costa once. Oh, terrible, awful photos.
Was he the one with the chainsaw base?
It wasn't the chainsaw base that was upsetting me. It was the naked women and what was going on that was upsetting me.
I don't think it would have worked if he'd been called...
Use the phrase come across. That would be completely wrong in these circumstances. Anyway, back to the album. What the fuck's it called?
Well, I thought I'm giving you clues.
Girl.
Right, okay. Correct, Girl. I've been listening.
There you go. See, I did know.
I've been listening to the debut album, She Agreed by Girl.
What's the verdict 40 odd years later? What year was it? 82, you said, didn't you?
1980.
80, good Lord.
45
years ago. What's the verdict?
I still love this record.
Do you?
Yeah. And there's lots of reasons why I love this record. When I went back and listened to it, it made me think, okay, what were this band trying to do? What sort of band did they want to be? If you looked at the front cover, right, they had that whole almost glammy, and it looked like a really cool... It almost felt like they were trying to be someone like Japan.
Everybody said that they were trying to be like Japan because they wore a bit of makeup and they were quite pretty. But the music was absolutely nothing like Japan whatsoever.
No, this album came out at the same time as Def Leppard's On Through the Night. And there are some songs on here that you kind of go, that's a young band finding their way in hard rock. The songs are all right. They're not brilliant, but they're okay rock songs. And then there's stuff on there. There's a track, Strawberries. You know the track, Strawberries?
Yeah.
Written by Phil Lewis, so he obviously was listening to lots of different stuff. There's Passing Clouds, again, just written by Lewis, which is that reggae song on side 2. So,
can't really remember that one. I usually like white people playing reggae.
But then you've got Hollywood Tees, opening the album, which ended up on an LA Guns album. Phil Lewis went over to join LA Guns and went, I've got a song. And then Little Miss Anne, Doctor Doctor.
What was the single called that was good?
My Number.
My Number, that was good.
Really good. Odd, mid-tempo, really unusual.
I agree with you. Some of it was a bit like, whatever. But some of those songs were really quite innovative and very different from what was happening at the time because it was all new wave of British heavy metal. And that was one of the reasons people hated them. Didn't they get spat on at Reading because they looked like girls and all that kind of stuff?
They supported Kiss, didn't they? And obviously on this record, the opening track on side 2 is a cover of Do You Love Me by Kiss.
That's right, yeah, it was.
And I think when they were supporting Kiss, they played it.
Did they get a spat on?
Yeah, I think they got
because people who'd gone to see Kiss didn't like people in makeup. That must have been it, mustn't it? Some people are so stupid.
I mean, you've got to have some bollocks to do a cover version of a song by the band that you're supporting.
That doesn't sound very Gene Simmons-like. To say, oh yeah, go ahead, guys, play one of our best-known numbers. I would be very surprised if that was the case.
I think maybe there's some people on our socials can confirm or deny that actually happened. And obviously, Phil Lewis went on to have a successful career in LA Guns and is still in LA Guns now. But obviously, one man went on to have an incredibly, and still is having.
Yeah, Jerry Laffey, he's absolutely smashed it.
Now, Phil Cullen went on to join Def Leppard. I heard this story this morning, actually. Apparently, the same Marshall head and Les Paul guitar that he used to record She Agreed, he actually did all the solos on Pyromania with as well.
I'd love to say that was interesting.
I think there might be people out there. You're horrible. Awful man. I don't think girls stood in his way when he said, I've been offered a gig.
Yeah, I think they might have gone, yeah, that's probably wise. It didn't last very long, did they? They made a second album. I don't think anybody really liked it very much.
No.
I can't even remember what it was called, to be fair.
Well, neither can I.
That shows how important that record was.
I think they just fell off a cliff, didn't they?
Yeah. I bought their first single on clear vinyl, My Number. Do you remember when coloured vinyl was very exciting?
I've got a lot of UFO, Scorpions and Michael Schenker group singles, and they were all on coloured vinyl or clear vinyl.
Coloured vinyl was a big thing around about 1979, 1980, at least in the UK.
Yeah.
I've got Blue Collar Man, the Styx single. Guess what colour it was on?
Green.
Wrong. Blue.
Right, okay.
I knew you'd get that wrong. My Number by Girl was on clear vinyl. There was a UFO one that I had that was on clear vinyl.
Yeah, I think all my UFO and Michael Schenker group singles are all on clear
Is there anybody there? Scorpions was on green vinyl.
I've got Number of the Beast on red vinyl.
Yeah. I think people have turned off by now, won't they? Shut up about the fucking vinyl.
And picture discs. I've got a few picture disc singles as well. But Girl, right? She Agreed. If you haven't heard it, go and listen to it. It's a really interesting record. It's got some really good rock songs. It's got some naive rock songs, but it's got some really interesting songs with different structures, like The Things You Say. The second track on side 1 is interesting. Strawberries is interesting. Passing Clouds is like a reggae song.
Boo.
How many hard rock and heavy metal bands were doing reggae songs in 1980?
Is there anybody there? There you go. That was before then.
It was, yeah.
It's just pissed on your chips, hasn't it?
Fucking hell.
Yeah, anyway, Girl, that's your album today. That's the one for people to listen to. Be careful what you listen to. Some good, some bad. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
But interesting stuff is very interesting.
Very interesting stuff, yeah.
Cool.
Definitely.
I've been listening to an album from 1976 by a little-known band called Led Zeppelin.
Right, okay.
Remember them?
Overrated.
Overrated, okay. What do you think of the album that I've been listening to, Presence?
It's not their best.
It's an odd one, isn't it?
It is an odd album. It's
not the first one you'd go to if you're going, I'm going to go for a classic Led Zeppelin album. But every so often, I think it's interesting to revisit records that you perhaps thought weren't as great as the rest of a band's oeuvre. And Presence is very much that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It was written and recorded in late 1975 when Robert Plant was recovering from a car accident he had and was in a bad way. And Presence was recorded while he was trying to recover from this. And that may have had something to do with the, I guess you could call it, up and down nature of the material. It wasn't consistently great. That's what I've rediscovered and listening to the album again. But the reason that I enjoyed listening to it, and I think there's a load of albums like this, aren't there? That even if there are 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 songs on a 7-song album, you go, yeah. If the great songs are great, it's kind of worth putting the effort in, isn't it? And Achilles' Last Stand, which opens this album, all 10 minutes and 26 seconds of it, is, in my opinion, one of the very best songs in the entire Led Zeppelin canon.
I don't disagree. I'll put it in their top 10, but I wouldn't put it in one of their greatest songs.
Oh, interesting. I think it's a really amazing song. It's heavy. It's interesting. It's got endless little different bits and pieces to it that you can go back to and rediscover and go, oh, wow, I didn't hear him playing that little bit before, old Jimmy there. And I think it's unashamedly pompous. And I've been listening to a bit of prog rock lately.
That was my next question. How verging on prog is it?
Zeppelin's never going to be full on prog, is it? Because of the way that Bonham played the drums. Because he's a full on rock drummer.
Yeah.
He played hard and he played heavy, even on the softer song. Sometimes maybe to the detriment of the song. Ooh, there's a controversial view. But I think that always meant that even when Zeppelin was at their most noodlesome and intricate, that it was still more based in rock than it was prog.
Yeah.
I think Achilles' Last Stand is a really good example of that. If you'd put that into the hands of ELP or Yes, I think it would have probably turned out very differently to the way that Zeppelin did it. It's just more powerful and more punchy. But I absolutely agree with you that it has certain prog tendencies there.
I always like Nobody's Fault But Mine.
Funnily enough, I was about to say, the other really great song on Presents is Nobody's Fault But Mine, isn't it?
I've got this on vinyl if I ever manage to get my vinyl unpacked when this bloody house gets finished. And if I put Presents on, I do the unusual thing. The first thing I put on is opening track on side 2.
Side 2 rather than side 1.
Yeah. Which is it's just a great...
Well, that's great, that little intro.
It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
I've done a bit of Page's guitar. Do you want to
do
it if Robert
No.
You're a singer?
Nah.
Yeah, it'd be quite difficult to do that, wouldn't it?
And it was a Hypnosis sleeve, wasn't it?
Was Hypnosis sleeve, and one of their best, actually, I feel.
Not as good as Foreigners.
Oh, no, that's right. Foreigners recently rediscovered album. The original sleeve, that was the best, obviously. Presents cover's great. Do you remember the object?
Yeah, that was the item. When you get the artwork, on the cover is pictures of people with a black, would you say an obelisk?
I don't know if it's an obelisk. It looks like an Oscar that's been burnt.
Yeah, but it was just referred to, wasn't it, as the object?
The object, yeah.
I'm just reading about it that Storm from Hypnosis said that it represented the power of Led Zeppelin.
Did it?
Saying that they were so powerful, they didn't need to be there.
Ooh, spooky.
Not really. Basically, it's just a pretentious art director just going, let's put a black blob in the middle.
Yeah, let's put a black blob in the middle. But it was good, and I enjoyed the very 50s family around a dining table that was on the front cover of the record. I thought it was great. I used to really like the way that Zeppelin did their stuff. It did make you feel you were getting something that was just a little bit more than 4 hairy people.
Yeah, but that was Hypnosis, wasn't it?
They seemed to spend more time on Zeppelin's covers than they did on the Halloween cover that I was involved in, for example.
Different times. They were probably getting paid a lot more money.
Exactly, that's the thing, isn't it? They were probably getting paid a lot more money.
Yeah.
It's not a great album from start to finish. I think there are some songs that you'd go, yeah, whatever. Candy Store Rock, Song for Nowhere. Yeah.
Do you think that was attributed to Plant not being...
Well, I think you have to be kind, don't you? That when he was clearly in a bad way, he wasn't going to be able to produce his very best work.
He wasn't at match fitness.
He wasn't fully match fit. It's kind of understandable. Maybe the fact that he got those vocals done at all is good enough. And the fact that there were 2 classics on there, T for One's a really good song as well, I think.
Yeah.
If you go back and listen to it, there's only 7 songs on the album, so they're all pretty long, apart from Royal Orleans, which is 2 minutes 58, but everything else is pretty long. Don't expect everything to be wonderful, but there are incredible moments on there and 2 real gems. And sometimes that's all you need, isn't it? There's an argument to be made that Presence is the weakest of all the Zeppelin albums. I think somebody could make that argument and it might stand up. But having said that, I've said this before, that sometimes when you go back to listen to albums that you haven't heard in many, many years, it's not necessarily to report back that everything is absolutely fantastic and wonderful and brilliant. It's one of the things I hate about a lot of the rock press these days is nothing is ever reviewed as, this isn't all that good. Everything's just fucking brilliant.
Unlike you back in the day, who was quite happy to slag people.
But don't you think that that's what's missing these days? Nobody ever goes, this album's rubbish.
Yeah, true.
And there's a place for this album's rubbish. I think in a different way to how it was done back in the day, because then it was often quite personal about the people, which I think you wouldn't do now. But if it's purely reviewing the music, If you think the music's really not very good and you can explain why you think it's not very good, that's valid, isn't it?
Definitely, and there's none of that now. Everybody just thinks...
No, everyone thinks everything's brilliant, and everything really isn't brilliant, is it?
No.
Music hasn't always just been brilliant. Some people make astonishing music. Some people make really terrible music. I'm not saying which category I put myself in, nor you.
I don't make music.
Well, you play music.
Yeah, play other people's music.
Yeah. It could still be reviewed as terrible or brilliant, though, couldn't it?
Yeah.
So that's my choice for this week. Led Zeppelin's Presence. Do go back and have a listen to it. Do report back on whether Achilles' Last Stand and Nobody's Fault But Mine are two of the very best songs Zeppelin ever recorded. And do let us know whether you think the rest of it is a bit, which is what I think.
It's good to have you back, though, HoJo.
Why is that, then?
Well, it's just good to have you back listening to...
What you call proper rock?
No, just stuff that's in our wheelhouse as a podcast.
Well, I thought we'd just learnt that Sleep Token is in our wheelhouse. The single-digit listener has spoken.
Yeah.
Hang on, before we move on from Presence, there's one really interesting fact that I've just uncovered.
Mm-hmm.
Assistant engineer, apparently uncredited on the album, but nevertheless there because it was recorded at Musicland in Munich, West Germany. Assistant engineer, not Don Airy. Assistant engineer Reinhold Mack. Isn't that interesting? Must have been right at the start of his career, because within 5 years, Mack was producing Billy Squire's Don't Say No and becoming the big swinging dick of production.
Interesting. And obviously the similarities between that drum sound that Squire got, that big...
Yeah, not a million miles away from what Bonham was doing, is it?
Bonham would take a drum kit into the corridor. I wonder if Mac went, this is interesting.
I think it's too close for comfort, isn't it? He was the assistant engineer on that. I think he might nick that off John.
Are we saying that Mac is in the same vein as John Bon Jovi?
He's in studios to get ideas. Yeah.
Wow.
So there you go. That's us wrapping up for another week. If you went a bit more weird than me today with Girl, I went Led Zeppelin, you went Girl. So now the boot is on the other foot.
I don't think that's weird. I guarantee you a lot of people will go, oh, fuck yeah, that's My Number. I love that song. They used to play that in the rock clubs. I'm going to go back and obviously loads of people will know Hollywood Tees because it was on LA Guns' first album.
That's true.
There might be a load of American glam metal people out there who love LA Guns and love Hollywood Tees that didn't know that was originally recorded on She Agreed by Girl in 1980.
And you are doing them a great service.
I'm just an educator.
You are.
I've been called many things.
Yeah.
Today I'm
called an educator.
I'm a twisted educator.
There you go, my friend. It's been good catching up. We are back on track, and I'm back in France. All ties up very nicely, doesn't it?
I'm off to play golf with Alice Cooper.
You go golf with Alice. You're not playing golf with Alice Cooper.
No. Do you remember when you said you could get me to play golf with KK Downing?
Yeah, and I could, and then your mate Alex Milas fucking screwed that, didn't he? Rightio.
Okay. Good to speak to you.
See you later.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.